All right, hi, welcome. It's Jem here. This is the talk, which I have condensed into a much smaller talk for how will you demonstrate value in 90 days. I'll get stuck into it straight away. My name is Jem, as mentioned. I'm a helper at the Agile Rooms. I'm a certified Scrum trainer and consultant and coach in my part-time. My passions, as you can see, my family, and in the corner, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What inspired this talk? Well, trying to stay alive. I've been a contractor for a very long time. I've been around this industry for almost 2 decades. Coming across Scrum in 2004, I learned that many people who hire you don't necessarily understand what your job is. And you have to find a way to demonstrate value without becoming pickled. And what I mean by that is if you get a cucumber and you put it into a certain solution for long enough, that cucumber will pickle. And it's the same with the Scrum Master. If you're put in certain environments where you're doing the things that are not really useful as a Scrum Master, then those bad habits will become the norm. So I've had to try and strike a balance. And this talk is in some ways giving you that balance with some practical advice on how to demonstrate value. Because value is a euphemism for so many managers or leaders for what are you going to deliver. Now, these are examples of what value could mean to such a persona. Manage Jira. You've heard of this one before, haven't you? It's all about going in, looking after the tools, looking after the processes, when we know it's not just about the tools and the process, it's about the people and the interactions. The tool should be enabling and serving the people, not getting in the way. Deliver, deliver, deliver. So the belief from your manager that our work is all about being predictable, it's all about churn, it's an assembly line way of working. And anyone who's worked in software will know that our work is not an assembly line way of working. We should create space for healthy variance. In other words, there are things that we can't predict, and we can leverage those things. Make it all the same. There's a similarity to deliver, deliver, deliver. And this is about uniformity. Every team in the organization should be using the same framework. We need more story points. So this is a focus on more, but more doesn't really mean you're making an impact. Story points aren't bad in of themselves, but they only tell you how fast you are going. They don't tell you if you're going in the right direction. And there's other bits that you'll see at the bottom here, like this superficial focus on happiness, keeping everyone busy, don't challenge dependencies, manage them, whip people into shape. Bar the whipping the people into shape and that kind of enforcing ugly form of command and control, the other things are not bad in of themselves, right? You know, processes, tools, activities, we need these things, but it's that we don't want to place heavy emphasis on those items. So you think of the Agile Manifesto, we're putting, people and interactions over process and tools, and, working software over comprehensive documentation and so on. And often when people talk about delivery, they're talking about the things that are more, should we say, old school. And I'll elaborate on what I mean on the old school paradigm in a moment, which is here. If you look at each era, from the Industrial Revolution to the age of steam and railways, steel and heavy engineering, and where are we today? Software and digitization. The age has a system, an infrastructure, and most importantly, a management approach. And this is the way that you, well, I guess, manage and look after the people that work for you or with you. And the management methods that many of us still see today are from an old era. And this management approach is believing that a lot of the work can be predictable and repeatable and linear. One person knows the answer. We break down the work and we allocate the work to certain individuals. So fast forward to where we are today, we know that our work is, if we want to be in the 21st century, we can't predict everything up front. We do want to welcome healthy, variance where we learn things. And it's not just straightforward in the way that we want to introduce change to an organization. And it's not just Scrum or just Kanban or extreme programming. There are many ways to do things, and even a mashup of those things. So this is about the way that somebody sees the world that could be hiring you. Now, with this paradigm, and of course we're stereotyping here, and we have to, just to make it a bit of a caricature to speak to the extreme, such managers are looking for the things that they can see, what are tangible. But the tricky part for you as a Scrum Master is you need to cultivate something which is not tangible. And that intangible force, the most important thing between people, is what you can't see, which is the relationship. And all value, I believe, is built on the relationship. Tobias Mayer, good quote here when I spent some time with him shooting the Agile Guerrilla vlog years back. And it stuck with me. Soft skills are actually hard because there's a perception that the people will just fall in line and all of the interaction stuff. Yeah, that's hocus pocus, hippie, mumbo jumbo. Look, getting to understand what people need, being able to create connections with humans, being able to develop trust, these are hard things. And this brings me to another metaphor, which is the bedrock of trust. And I'm sure you've seen these visualizations in different ways. The bedrock of all relationships is trust. And it comes down to understanding people's needs. We all have needs, but we may not fulfill our needs in a different way if we're working with a team. And then we have our own needs in the organization, but then there are also business needs. So there needs to be, how can I say this, a compromise, because we all can't get what we need. There is value in the business that we're trying to realize. There are constraints that we're working with, and so on. Once we're able to understand needs and the business value, we can hopefully start to experiment with with what we're building or in the ways that we're working, and then we can reflect, and then we can get to the improvements. And everybody wants that lush green grass, which is analogous to a high performing team, but the bedrock of it is trust. Now, I'm not saying you develop this in a linear way. I don't think life works like that, but these are certainly elements that I see as incredibly important if you want to try and create a high performing team. So anyway, back to that question. What is it you're going to deliver? Well, quite frankly, we don't know what we're going to deliver because we're coming in to deal with a challenge, and there are going to be different types of challenges, and they come in all types of shapes, from an organization who want to go agile, but the organization, the management like the idea of it, but they haven't got the behaviors to actually make that happen. You might have challenges such as some developers don't like certain frameworks and methodologies, and half the team do like it. That's another type of mess. You might have a situation where an organization believes that we just need more carrots and sticks to deliver on time. If only we did more analysis. If only we broke down the work to more detail. So we don't know when people are asking us, what can we get delivered in 90 days? And it's hard to guarantee, right? It's hard to guarantee. So if you want to create a stick for yourself, this is probably a good thing to say. You'll deliver on the commitments, you'll remove dependencies, you'll turn water into wine. You understand the point I'm trying to make. You may have these aspirations, you want the team to improve as a Scrum Master, but we don't know what we can actually do. Take this one example here. You think you can help the team deliver on commitments, but there are so many factors behind a problem with teams delivering on commitments. And maybe there's a problem with the wording in of itself. But take this one example. So why can't a team deliver in a sprint or an iteration or a period of time? Call it what you will. Could be high dependencies outside of the team. The team can't slice the work in a vertical manner so they can get that piece of work across the board. It might be a question of skill, knowledge, both, or organizational constraints. A lack of collaboration during the sprint. Yeah, we don't have the right people looking at the work at the right time. We believe that we can pre-plan everything at the planning meeting and we can deliver upon what was expected. We could have weak software development enablers. You've got all the post-it notes in the world and all the jargon, but you don't have a continuous integration infrastructure or a deployment pipeline that allows fast feedback loops to recognize problems quickly. So we have a quicker, a greater amount of time to respond to inevitable problems that will come up. External disturbances, everyone is asking for teams outside of the team. There are no boundaries, and it's affecting our focus. I'm trying to show you here that you might be saying that you can help a team deliver on commitments, but each of these topics are a discussion in of themselves. And just because you can identify the problem, it doesn't mean that you can solve it. So I would like you to think about reframing this question to yourself. Instead of what is it you are going to deliver, ask this: what is it I am going to learn? Because we can guarantee that one, I think. We can feel more confident about telling people what we aspire to learn as opposed to what we are going to deliver. And we're confident because there are going to be ways of working, implicit or explicit, right? They might not be written down, they might not be well established, but if the team are working, then there is a way of working. There are going to be interactions because there are people there. There's going to be a certain level of quality. There are going to be processes. There are going to be tools. So these are things that we should feel confident about learning. And this question not only helps give you confidence to educate the manager and give you a different way of looking at what you can do in the first 90 days, it also helps you walk in with a coaching paradigm, right? You're walking in with the rule of 2 ears and 1 mouth. You're walking in to listen because you're going in to learn. And it's experiments over recipes. When you're thinking about learning, you might go in more curious, right? You know, you're going there to not just enforce or have your preconceived ideas about how the team should work. You're going in to listen, you're going in to learn, you're going in to try stuff. There is no one way to do things. And this overall can, I have found, get you more relaxed, get you more humane and more anchored in when you enter the team. Like, you're not their boss, you're not their parent, you're their coach, you're there to serve them. And I think the way that you enter a system is incredibly important. You know, if we go in there and we rough people up and we, you know, try and enforce, you might get compliance, but compliance doesn't mean engagement. And to understand how to get off on the right foot, maybe I can share what it looks like when you get off on the wrong foot. You go into the interview and they ask you what you're going to deliver, and you say, oh, I'll deliver it all. Yeah, you promised them the world. Now you're under pressure. Now you've got to do it, right? You've got to make it happen. This gets you into the Scrum police mode. And we're back to the Scrum guide says, and it's the finger wagging way of doing it. We're not talking about the why. We just want them to get it done because we're under pressure to perform and to deliver. And as I mentioned before, we're looking at compliance, not engagement. Compliance is, I want you to do something. Engagement is, I have an idea. What do you think? One is inviting a dialogue. One is you know, giving someone an instruction. When we can't engage people, improvement is going to be slow or non-existent. And ironically, that goes against everything that you were trying to do when it came to delivery. One thing to get your head around is some managers, and maybe even yourself, when you hear, what am I going to learn? It might be, well, you know, this is kind of hippie talk. It's very fluffy, maybe a bit academic exploration. But it's not. It's not fluffy. It's the good stuff that we care about. Because if you're thinking about what you're going to learn, you're going in to listen. You're going in to understand the team. That can build connections. When you're working on that intangible force between people, that's most important, which is trust, and you're building those relationships. Now they can open up to us. Now they can, you know, reveal, and we can unveil the problems, be it the people, the interactions, the process, the tools. It's only once we can see the system can we then experiment. The more opportunity to experiment, the more likelihood that we can make an impact. So, you know, in your first month, it really is about learning. And this is not a recipe. And this is why I don't want to, you know, reveal all of this, because in the past, I understand why people follow these things verbatim. But these are certainly common things that I've seen in my experience of being a veteran Scrum Master. I want to learn about the efficacy of the framework. Yeah, you know, what is it they're using, and how well does it work? What are the inputs? What are the outputs? There's a mechanistic part there. Team connection, understand the needs of the team. Yeah. Who are they? What are their top 10 problems? Learn about them, not just in a team setting, in a one-to-one setting. Observe the dynamic, which leads us to team safety. How equal is the voice in the team? Is it one person leading all the conversations? Is a certain person checking in with somebody else where they want to give an answer? So we want to see how psychologically safe people are, which again is, you know, instrumental to change, because if people feel scared to speak mind, being brave can be tiring. Understanding value. What do we build? Is it a product? Is it a service? Is it components? Is it a cut of all of those things? If we don't understand value, then we can't enable self-organization. Self-organization is built around understanding value. How do we go from concept to cash? So, literally understanding a few requirements that we've delivered. How do you take it from your brain to getting paid? Is there a value stream that we can draw out? And then finally, are we data-driven? How do we know what we know? Are we using different types of metrics? What are those metrics? Do those metrics focus on flow, or are they vanity metrics? So I'm thinking a lot about learning, especially in the first month. Now, these are the prerequisites to experimentation. You kind of need the following factors, right? Yeah. You may think something's a fantastic idea to experiment on, but the team aren't aware on it. And if the team aren't aware and you need them to play ball, then how can you capture the data? Could you imagine you're trying to get team members to move cards on Jira or wherever it is to capture data on cycle time or lead time, but if the cards aren't moving in real time, the data has no integrity. So awareness of the issue is about getting the people on board. It's got to mean something to them. How much of a hot topic is this? So, yep, stay alive. A dead Scrum Master is not a good Scrum Master, Ken Schwaber. If it's very sensitive and it's a bit of a political football, be careful. Some things may seem like a good idea, but they could put you at risk. Is it the right time? You join a team and it's like some sort of death march or aggressive delivery. Maybe they don't have the headspace for that month or those 6 weeks to think about experimentation. You need to be kind of alive to what's going on. And if people need a space to get the work done, just watch, support, and be pragmatic for now. Have you got the enthusiasts with you? No point of going to the cynics. Ask the people who are interested to experiment to come along. Invite. Are you being practical with the tools? You hear talks about, cycle time scatter plots, or whether it's a burn down or OKRs. Don't worry about exotic ways to capture data. Go manual if you have to. And that means pick experiments that are straightforward and you just roll your sleeves up and get it done. Of course, to make it sustainable, yeah, you're going to need something a bit more sophisticated, but just for now. So you need a level of buy-in. You hope to have a good appetite from the people involved in the experimentation so that we have engagement. Now, throughout these 90 days, there's going to be some inquiry and education. And remember, with team connection is not just about learning about the people, it's about them learning about you. Make your needs make your needs clear to the team, right? Make it clear. What do you need to be effective? Often we speak about the needs of everybody so much, we forget our own, and we think we're being selfless by doing that, but actually we're being selfish because nobody can help us do our job if we can't make it clear what we need to try to be effective. So with the inquiry and the education, and you can see some of these sort of like sound bubbles, our daily scrum is 20 minutes long. And I wonder if I've noticed some cards are hanging over into the next sprint, and do we run a post-mortem with an outage? So we're trying to inquire now. We've been observing, we're learning, and these are some of the things that we've seen, and we're putting it back on the team so that we can try and catalyze a conversation about running an experiment. Yeah, maybe we stay aligned through a definition of done when it comes to building things. Maybe we stay aligned through creating a team contract, which is getting some clarity on what we expect from each other for our behaviors, so on and so forth. Now, with the learning comes the experimenting, and these are, again, the kind of headlines that I think about. I want to learn about the delivery. How do we deliver, right? You've got aging cards here. We've got the cycle time scatter plot. We've got cumulative flow diagrams, the aging of cars, delay bar chart. So there are much better ways to learn about a team. And I mentioned vanity metrics, which often tend to be things like, burn down charts or burn up and more. And these types of metrics might focus more on the flow of the work. What type of waste can we spot? So you can see a poster behind me, the 7 types of waste: partially done work. It could be handoffs, it could be delays, it could be defects. There's more. These are the things that we're looking for. Use or challenge of X framework. Yeah, you've gone in and you've noticed people don't want to do daily Scrum. Maybe you want to experiment. Maybe you don't want to do it every day. Maybe you don't want to use Scrum. That can sound quite taboo. But if you're going in to truly learn, then you might notice that a team of 4 people that are always together might not need that one time in a day to have the communication like some people naively think is needed. You might be communicating all day. I'm not putting down the daily scrum. I'm just saying that it's not always needed if you're close and your information becomes my information. What shape are our enablers in? So you might have seen this from the book Accelerate, the software development lifecycle, software deployment itself, and the service of operations. So these are quite DevOps focused conversations, because it's all about getting things out and learning, which is at the heart of Agile, to be empirical, to validate what we build. So I want to be looking at whether these factors are done. Do we have measures, and how well do we do it? And then also team structure and policies. Yeah, have we got certain structures in that help this team become performant? Yeah, don't fix the people, fix the system. For example, team structures, does it mean that anyone can throw work into the sprint? And if we do, does work come out, or are we just loading up the people? That policies, when we move a piece of work from one column to the other, do we know what it means? Are we explicit about that? Or do we have our own kind of implicit understanding of it? And does that mean we end up building the wrong thing? And so on. So these are the areas that I'm thinking about. 3 months in, again, this is not, some people want like a blow by blow. What am I going to do on month one? What am I going to do on month two? It's impossible, isn't it? But these are certainly the things that I would expect to learn about in the first 3 months. And now this is what I want to emphasize. When you learn, give transparency. Give the transparency to your manager or to whoever you're reporting to. Give the transparency to the team. When you experiment and the results come back, give the transparency. An experiment doesn't mean you're going to get what you want. You have a hypothesis, there's a belief, and you want to run certain types of actions, and you want to observe the outcomes through the signals, and then see if what you hypothesized was true or wasn't. But you need to provide the transparency throughout. Because when we give this, when we fall into this trap of radio silence, I can't get hold of my manager, the one-to-one got cancelled, they got busy. It doesn't matter. Send an email. Be relentless with giving transparency, because if you don't, it may look like that you've not done anything, because you're being measured on what you can only see and what's being delivered. But in the background, you may have run like 100 experiments, and just because they didn't come to fruition, that's not your fault. Put the ball in their court. Absolutely. Put it back in your manager's court when we're talking about delivering value in 90 days. The data shows we can't get it over the line because these are the tools we need. This is something from outside of the team. Our job is not just to work at the local level, right? We are not decoupled from the organization. There are going to be systemic factors that affect us, and we are going to need help and support to get it done. So put the ball in their court. Keep massaging the mindset. Remember the slides early on? Yep. Whenever you're playing back about the experimenting and the learning, and just make it clear to the manager, help them see that this is about being adaptive. There is going to be emergence. It's not going to be linear. I'm in no way trying to demonize predictable, linear type of work. There is going to be that type of work. There is turnkey type of work. And for that work, fine. We don't need to innovate, get it done, do it. But let the manager see the benefit of the experimentation. Let them see how the team are more engaged and how they're more interested, and maybe they're taking more ownership because they have a voice and they're proactively trying to improve the way that they work, and therefore improve what they're delivering and building for the customer. And yeah, finally, share that success. This is back to the transparency. I've done a 3-month gig where I felt terrible, like I've not made any kind of impact. And one of my mentors at the time said to me, if you were to, verbalize or write down all the things that you tried, even though they didn't work and they failed because they were experiments, would that be different? Would you feel different then? Would that have maybe enabled your manager to see the intangible things, even though you didn't get the impact you wanted? And I think the answer in many cases was yes. It would have certainly made the situation better. Not perfect, but better. So these are the things that I would encourage you to think about. It's not a recipe, but it's almost like a little bit of a map or a toolkit for the things that I'm going to pull from, to learn about, to experiment, and remember the caveats for the experimentation, right? And you can see it in a second. Transparency, transparency, transparency. If no one can see your experimentation, and don't wait till the end of the 3 months, that's a bad idea, then it's hard for them to know how you bring value. All right, I hope that was useful, and I look forward to the feedback. Thank you for watching. There's more on the Agile Rooms with more talks. I'll see you there. Thank you.